Ever felt like you're magnetically stuck to someone or some situation even when you know it's dragging you down? Maybe it's like Sarah in New York City. She's a talented graphic designer, ambitious, with a great circle of friends. But lately, her world has shrunk to the size of her phone screen. Her ex, Ben, broke things off 3 months ago, yet Sarah finds herself compulsively checking his social media, his new life, new friends, that new person he's tagged in photos. Each glimpse sends a jolt of anxiety, a wave of sadness right through her. She knows it's not healthy. Her friends tell her to just let it go, but the thought of completely severing that tie, of him just vanishing from her orbit, feels terrifying. It's a fear of loss, a fear of the unknown that keeps her clicking, scrolling, and sinking. Or think about Michael, a project manager in Chicago. He's in a job that pays well, but his boss is a nightmare, demanding, unpredictable, and constantly shifting goalposts. Every Sunday evening, Michael feels a knot of dread tighten in his stomach about the week ahead. He dreams of quitting, of finding something fulfilling, but the fear of financial instability, of not finding another job, keeps him tethered to that toxic environment. He feels trapped, his energy sapped, his potential stifled. These feelings, Sarah's obsessive attachment to a past relationship, Michael's paralyzing fear in a difficult work situation, they're not uncommon. They're profoundly human. We all form attachments. We all experience fear of loss, whether it's losing a person, a job, or even just a sense of comfort and familiarity. And sometimes these attachments, these fears, can start to control us, to dictate our happiness, to narrow our lives. It's like being caught in an invisible net where every struggle to break free only seems to entangle us further. But what if there was a way to loosen those bonds, not by becoming cold or unfeeling, but by becoming stronger, wiser, and more centered? What if there were an ancient toolkit, surprisingly relevant to our bustling, modern lives, that could teach us how to navigate these turbulent waters? There is, and it's called Stoicism. For over 2,000 years, Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca have offered profound insights into the human condition. They understood the power of our emotions, the pain of loss, and the anxieties that can plague us. But crucially, they also offered practical strategies for building inner resilience, for finding peace amidst chaos, and for learning how to detach, not from life itself, but from the things that cause us unnecessary suffering. This isn't about suppressing your emotions or building walls around your heart. Stoic detachment is about gaining clarity. It's about understanding what you can control and what you can't. It's about choosing your responses rather than being a victim of your reactions. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore practical, Stoic-inspired steps to help you detach from people and situations that are holding you back so you can reclaim your peace and live a more fulfilling life. So, if you're feeling like Sarah or Michael, trapped by attachments and fear, stick with us. The first Stoic step is surprisingly simple, yet incredibly powerful. 1. The power of space, creating clarity when you're overwhelmed. So, you're feeling tangled up, like Sarah with her ex, or Michael with his boss. The emotions are loud, the thoughts are racing, and clarity seems miles away. What's the very first practical thing you can do, according to Stoic wisdom? It's about creating space. Picture Mark, an architect in Chicago, knee-deep in a high-pressure project. Deadlines are looming, the client is demanding, and to make matters worse, one of his team members, let's call him Kevin, is a constant source of negativity. Kevin complains, criticizes, and casts a shadow over every team meeting. Mark finds himself getting sucked into Kevin's vortex of gloom, his own stress levels spiking, his focus splintering. He can barely hear his own thoughts above the noise of Kevin's pessimism and the project's demands. It's like trying to have a delicate, important conversation in the middle of a deafening rock concert. Impossible, right? Mark realizes he needs a change of scenery, a moment of quiet. So, one afternoon, instead of grinding it out in the tense office, he packs his laptop and heads to a small, quiet cafe a few blocks away. The simple act of changing his environment, of creating a pocket of physical and mental distance, starts to work almost immediately. The music of the office chaos fades and he can finally start to hear himself think. This idea of stepping back, of creating distance, isn't about running away from your problems. It's a strategic move, a power move. When we're too close to a person or a situation, especially an emotionally charged one, our vision gets blurry. Our feelings, like that loud party noise or Kevin's constant negativity, drown out our ability to think clearly and objectively. Stepping back, even for a short while, is like leaving that noisy party and stepping into a quiet courtyard. Suddenly, you can breathe. You can process. You can distinguish your own thoughts from the overwhelming noise of the situation or the emotions of others. The great Stoic philosopher Seneca, who advised emperors and navigated his own share of turbulent times, put it beautifully: as often as you sojourn, return to yourself. This isn't just about taking a vacation to a quiet villa, though that would be nice. It's about creating intentional moments of retreat in your everyday life. This returning to yourself is about finding or creating a space, physically, mentally, and emotionally, where you can disengage from the immediate storm and reconnect with your own inner compass. When feelings are clouding our judgment, a step back allows us to observe them with a bit more detachment. Imagine you're lying on the grass in Millennium Park looking up at the Chicago sky. You see clouds drifting by, some light and fluffy, some dark and heavy. You acknowledge them, you see their shape and movement, but you know you are not the clouds. You are the observer, the sky itself. Our emotions can be like those clouds, powerful, ever-changing, and sometimes stormy. But they are not us. They are experiences passing through us. Creating space helps us see this distinction. It helps us understand that just because you feel overwhelmed, or angry, or anxious, doesn't mean you are an overwhelmed, angry, or anxious person at your core. This kind of detachment isn't about becoming cold or unfeeling. It's a pathway to understanding the situation and your reactions to it more objectively. Think of it like this: when you're right in the middle of a complex issue, it's like holding a single chess piece so close to your eye that it's all you can see. You're completely absorbed by its texture, its weight, its immediate presence. But if you step back from the board, you can see all the pieces, their positions, the patterns, the potential moves. You see the entire game. That's what creating space does. It allows you to move from being just the pawn, caught up in the immediate, to being the player, observing the whole chessboard. You gain perspective. So, how do you apply this in your busy, modern life, especially if you're living in a bustling city and a Roman villa isn't an option? It's simpler than you think. It could be turning off your phone for an hour, no emails, no social media, no news alerts. Just an hour of digital silence. It could be taking a solo walk, maybe along the lakefront if you're in Chicago like Mark, or through a quieter neighborhood street, focusing on your breath and the rhythm of your steps, not on your worries. It could be dedicating 15 minutes each morning to sit quietly in a room, perhaps with a cup of tea, before the day's demands kick in. Even if your apartment is small and the city is noisy outside, you can create an inner sanctum with noise-canceling headphones and some calming music, or just silence. The goal is to consciously carve out a space where your thoughts aren't constantly being drowned out or pulled in a million directions by the relentless buzz of life, by the demands of others, or by your own churning emotions. It's in these quiet moments of retreat, these little sojourns back to yourself, that you find the breathing room to calm your mind. It's here that you can start to untangle your feelings from your thoughts, and your thoughts from the actual facts of the situation. This step back is your opportunity to recharge your mental batteries and prepare yourself to make decisions that are based not on the heat of the moment or a swell of emotion, but on reasoned thought, clarity, and your own inner wisdom. It's your first crucial step to seeing beyond the fog of the immediate and towards a more considered, Stoic response. This act of creating space is fundamental. It lays the groundwork for all the other steps in detaching healthily. Because once you've created that initial quiet, that clearer vantage point, you're then in a much better position to assess the situation more rationally. 2. Is distancing smart? A Stoic guide to tough relationship choices. Alright, so you've taken that initial step back like Mark did by escaping to the cafe. You've created some breathing room, some mental space, and things are a little clearer. But now comes a potentially bigger question. Is a more significant, perhaps even permanent, distance from a person or situation the right call? This isn't a decision to be made lightly or impulsively. Stoicism champions rationality and virtue, and applying these to our relationships is key. Imagine Maria living in sunny Los Angeles. She's a kind, empathetic soul, and for years, she's been incredibly close to her friend, Lisa. They've shared everything. But lately, Lisa has become consistently critical, almost subtly undermining Maria's confidence. Every conversation seems to leave Maria feeling drained, a little smaller, a little more doubtful of herself. Maria values loyalty deeply, and the thought of creating distance from a long-term friend feels like a betrayal. Yet, she also recognizes that this friendship, in its current state, is taking a real toll on her mental health and self-esteem. She's at a crossroads. Stay loyal and suffer, or choose herself and risk guilt or conflict. This is where Stoic thinking encourages us to act like the captain of our own ship. Think of your life as a journey on a boat. The people in your life, the situations you encounter, are like the winds and currents. Some are favorable, helping you sail smoothly towards your chosen destination, a life of purpose, growth, and tranquility. Others, however, might be like persistent storms or treacherous currents, constantly threatening to pull you off course, into choppy waters, or even towards rocks. As the captain, you have the responsibility and the right to decide which winds to harness and which storms it's wiser to navigate away from. This isn't about avoidance for avoidance's sake. It's about steering your life, your ship, in a direction that aligns with your core values, your well-being, and what the Stoics called living in accordance with nature, our rational, virtuous nature. Epictetus, a remarkable Stoic philosopher who himself rose from the brutal conditions of slavery to become a revered teacher of wisdom, often emphasized the profound importance of choosing our associations carefully. He understood that the people we surround ourselves with can significantly impact our inner freedom and our ability to live a virtuous life. His own life is a testament to the idea that we can cultivate wisdom and tranquility regardless of external circumstances, but also that discerning choices about our environment and relationships are part of that cultivation. Epictetus taught that not everyone who wanders into our lives brings light. Some, intentionally or not, cast shadows that can dim our own inner shine, our progress towards becoming our best selves. So, how do you make this rational assessment? Stoicism isn't about cold, heartless logic. It's about warm, compassionate wisdom. It asks us to reflect deeply. Consider your relationships as if they were mirrors. When you interact with this person or engage in this situation, what does it reflect back to you? Is it joy, encouragement, growth, understanding, and mutual respect? Or is it predominantly doubt, discomfort, stagnation, anxiety, or a feeling of being diminished? If Maria, in LA, honestly looks into the mirror of her friendship with Lisa, she might see a reflection of her own diminishing self-worth, her increasing anxiety before their meetups. This reflection isn't a judgment on Lisa as a bad person, but an observation of the impact of the dynamic on Maria. Choosing to distance yourself in this Stoic sense is not an act of abandonment or condemnation. It's a deliberate, thoughtful choice towards self-preservation and maintaining your moral integrity. It's about recognizing that you have a responsibility to nurture your own inner garden. If a particular plant, however beautiful it once was, is now consistently blighting the others or depleting the soil, a wise gardener makes a tough but necessary decision for the health of the whole garden. Stoicism invites us to ask, does this person or this situation add to my life like a harmonious melody, contributing to my overall symphony of well-being? Or does it disrupt it like a discordant, jarring note, throwing everything off key? As you ponder this, remember another crucial insight from Epictetus. We are not disturbed by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens. This is powerful. It's not just about the other person's actions, but your perception and interpretation of their impact on your life, and how that impact aligns or clashes with your pursuit of a virtuous and tranquil life. Is this person a chapter in your life story that genuinely encourages your growth, your character development? Or are they becoming a recurring footnote that distracts from your main narrative, pulling you away from your core values and goals? For Maria, it's not just about Lisa is critical. It's about my experience of Lisa's criticism is consistently undermining my peace and my ability to flourish, despite my best efforts to communicate or manage the dynamic. The focus shifts from blaming the other person to taking responsibility for your own well-being and the kind of life you are actively trying to build. Ultimately, the decision to distance yourself, made rationally and thoughtfully, is about creating a life story that you are proud to narrate. It's about being true to yourself, your values, and your journey towards becoming a better human being. Stoicism doesn't tell us to sever all ties at the first sign of trouble, but it does equip us to make discerning choices, to embrace relationships and situations that enrich our narrative and align with our highest selves, and to gently, but firmly, let go of those that consistently detract from it. It's about thoughtfully curating the tapestry of your existence, ensuring that each person and experience is a deliberate, considered addition, contributing to a life of wisdom, purpose, and inner peace. 3. Feeling lost? Who to talk to when you need real answers, Stoic advice. Making these kinds of decisions, whether to create space or even significant distance from someone or a situation, can feel incredibly heavy, even isolating. You've done the internal work of creating some space, you've tried to rationally assess the impact on your life, but sometimes your own thoughts can feel like a tangled web. It's like trying to solve a complex jigsaw puzzle when you're too close to it and all the pieces look the same. This is when reaching out becomes crucial. While Stoicism famously champions inner strength, self-reliance, and mastering our own minds, it absolutely does not advocate for solitary suffering. In fact, the Stoics deeply valued the power of genuine connection and shared wisdom. Imagine David, a software engineer in Houston. He's been offered a fantastic job opportunity in another state, a dream role, really. But taking it would mean uprooting his life, moving away from his aging parents whom he helps care for, and distancing himself from his current, comfortable but ultimately unfulfilling work environment where he has many friends. He's torn. One day he feels excited by the prospect, the next he's overwhelmed by guilt and fear. His internal compass is spinning. This is precisely when talking to someone trustworthy is like finding an anchor in choppy seas, or perhaps a skilled co-navigator for your life's journey. When you're struggling to fit the pieces of life's puzzle together, seeking out a trusted confidant isn't about offloading your problems onto someone else to solve for you. It's about gaining clarity, perspective, and sometimes just the reassurance that you're not alone in your struggle. Think of it as inviting someone to look at your jigsaw puzzle with fresh eyes. They might spot a connection you've missed or help you sort the edge pieces from the middle ones, making the whole task feel less daunting. Seneca, a Stoic whose letters are filled with practical advice on human relationships and navigating life's challenges, had a profound understanding of human nature. He beautifully compared a true friend to a mirror. A good friend, a wise confidant, doesn't just reflect back your surface image. They help reflect your innermost truths, your values, sometimes even the blind spots you can't see in yourself. This reflection isn't merely about seeing yourself more clearly, it's about understanding your path, your motivations, and the potential consequences of your choices more deeply. When you open up to someone you genuinely trust, someone who isn't going to just tell you what you want to hear, or gossip, or interject with their own drama, you're not just sharing words. You're inviting them into your inner world, offering them a glimpse of your thoughts, your fears, your hopes. This act of vulnerable sharing, when met with wisdom and empathy, creates a sacred space. It's a space of mutual understanding and support where insights are exchanged, not just sympathies tossed back and forth. David from Houston, feeling conflicted about the job offer, decides to talk it over with his mentor, a retired executive named Ms. Evans, whom he's known for years and deeply respects for her calm judgment and integrity. He lays out his dilemma, his excitement, his fears, his sense of duty. Ms. Evans doesn't tell him what to do. Instead, she listens intently. She asks him probing questions. What does fulfilling work truly mean to you, David? What are your biggest fears about moving, and how could you mitigate them? How have you managed similar feelings of responsibility in the past? Through this conversation, David starts to untangle his own thoughts. Ms. Evans acts as that mirror, reflecting his own values back to him, helping him see the core issues more clearly. The key here is to choose your confidant wisely. The Stoics would advise choosing someone who embodies the virtues you aspire towards, perhaps someone known for their wisdom, their fairness, their courage, or their self-control. This person becomes your sounding board. They can help you navigate through the fog of your emotions and the complexity of your thoughts. They don't necessarily have to fix your problems. Often, the simple act of being truly heard, of having someone listen without judgment as you articulate your jumbled feelings, is incredibly therapeutic and clarifying. Their presence, their engaged listening, is a powerful reminder that you're not isolated on this journey. We are social creatures, and while our inner fortress is ours to build, having trusted allies strengthens our resolve. As you share your thoughts, you might find little nuggets of wisdom in their responses, or even in the questions they ask. These can be like little signposts, helping you see things from a different angle. Perhaps they share a relevant experience of their own, not to hijack the conversation, but to offer a different perspective on resilience or decision-making. Stoicism teaches us that life's challenges are best met not with frantic anxiety, but with a calm mind and, importantly, the support of a virtuous community, even if that community is just one or two trusted individuals. Your chosen confidant is a vital part of this personal community. They are a testament to the idea that strength doesn't always mean going it alone. Often, true strength is found in our capacity for connection and our willingness to both give and receive support. So, remember, detaching from a particular person or a difficult situation doesn't mean you need to detach from all human connections. In fact, it's these very positive, supportive connections that can provide the strength, the perspective, and the clarity needed to navigate life's complex tapestry, especially when you're considering a significant detachment. Your conversations with this trusted individual are far more than just chats. They are bridges to deeper self-understanding, pathways to clarity, and invaluable anchors in the ever-changing, often turbulent seas of life. They help you ensure that your decisions about detachment are coming from a place of wisdom and self-awareness, not just reactive emotion. 4. Stop your feelings from controlling you, a Stoic way for emotional limits. Alright, you've created some space, you've rationally considered the need for distance, and perhaps you've even talked things through with a trusted friend. But now, we come to the front line of detachment, managing your own internal emotional landscape. This is where Stoicism offers some of its most powerful and practical tools. Because let's face it, feelings can be intense. They can feel like giant waves threatening to knock you off your feet. Imagine Aisha, a marketing executive in Philadelphia. She just had a really tense disagreement with her partner, Liam, about future plans. The conversation ended abruptly, leaving Aisha feeling a potent mix of anger, frustration, and hurt. Her immediate impulse is to send a barrage of furious texts, or perhaps to retreat into a stony, resentful silence for days. Her heart is pounding, her mind is racing with retorts and accusations. She feels completely overwhelmed by these emotions. This is where the Stoic approach to emotional regulation comes in. It's like being the captain of a ship sailing through a sudden, violent storm. The waves you're feeling are undeniably powerful, real, and sometimes overwhelming. Stoicism doesn't teach us to pretend the storm isn't happening or to somehow magically stop the waves. That's unrealistic. Instead, it teaches us how to navigate those waves with skill, wisdom, and a firm hand on the tiller. It's about knowing when to ride a wave, when to steer into it, and when to drop anchor and wait for the worst to pass. Our feelings are natural, a fundamental part of being human. But without setting some kind of limits or boundaries with them, they can easily sweep us away from our chosen path, our values, and our inner peace. The trick, the Stoics would say, is to experience these emotional waves without letting them capsize our boat, our rational mind, our ability to choose our actions. Epictetus, that incredibly insightful Stoic we've mentioned, gave us a golden rule here. We are not troubled by things, but by the view which we take of them. This is revolutionary. It means it's not just the argument with Liam that's causing Aisha's distress. It's her interpretation of the argument, the story she's telling herself about what it means. He doesn't respect me, our future is doomed, this always happens. This perspective is the absolute key to establishing emotional boundaries. Think of it like having a discerning gatekeeper at the entrance to your mind. This gatekeeper, your rational faculty, acknowledges every visitor, every emotion that comes knocking. Anger, sadness, joy, fear. The gatekeeper doesn't try to fight them off or deny their existence. That's futile. Anger is there. Sadness is there. But the gatekeeper doesn't just fling open the doors and let every single one of these visitors rampage through the house, trashing the place and taking over completely. The house in this analogy is your inner peace, your state of calm reason. So, when anger, perhaps Aisha's anger at Liam, knocks loudly, the gatekeeper says, anger, I see you. I recognize you. Let me understand why you're here. Aisha might acknowledge, I am feeling angry because I felt unheard in that conversation. That's valid. But then, the gatekeeper doesn't let anger sit down at the head of the table, grab the microphone, and dictate all subsequent actions. It doesn't let anger send those furious texts or initiate days of simmering resentment. Instead, it's about having a kind of internal conversation with that emotion. Okay, anger, I understand you're here because I feel disrespected. Your presence is noted. Now, what is the most constructive way to respond to this feeling of being disrespected, a way that aligns with my values and my desire for a healthy relationship? This is about understanding the proper place of our emotions and gently guiding them so they don't completely overshadow our reason and our long-term goals. Practically speaking, for Aisha, setting limits could mean saying to herself, okay, I am incredibly upset right now. I'm going to give myself the next 30 minutes to feel this fully. I can write it all down in my journal, I can pace around my apartment, I can even punch a pillow if I need to. But after these 30 minutes, I am going to consciously shift my focus. I will not engage with Liam until I feel calmer. I will then think about how to address the underlying issue constructively when we're both less heated. This is not about denying her feelings. It's about managing their influence. It's a delicate balancing act, like a tightrope walker high above the ground. The walker absolutely acknowledges the height, the danger, the potential for falling, the power of the emotion. But their primary focus isn't on the dizzying drop, it's on the rope, on each step, on maintaining balance, their rational mind, their chosen response. By doing this, we honor our feelings, we give them their space and their due, without becoming their prisoners, without letting them dictate our behavior in ways we later regret. We feel, we understand the feeling, and then we gently guide ourselves back to a place of balance and rationality. The Stoics were masters of this. They weren't emotionless robots, they were deeply feeling individuals who had trained themselves to respond to their emotions with wisdom rather than pure reactivity. This process isn't about suppression, which is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Eventually, it'll pop up with even greater force. It's about moderation. Think of it like adding sugar to your tea. You want enough to enhance the flavor, to acknowledge the desire for sweetness, but not so much that it overwhelms the actual taste of the tea, making it sickly and undrinkable. Our emotions are part of the flavor of life, but if they become too intense, too unchecked, they can spoil the whole experience. By consciously establishing these kinds of limits for your feelings, you're practicing a core Stoic discipline, the discipline of assent. You're choosing what you assent to, what you agree with in your internal world. You're choosing not to assent to the tyranny of unchecked emotion. This allows you to navigate challenging interactions and situations not as a leaf tossed in the wind of your feelings, but as a grounded, thoughtful individual, capable of choosing virtue and reason even when the emotional seas get rough. It's a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice, patience, and self-compassion. 5. Before you cut ties, a Stoic checklist for big decisions. So, you've worked on creating space, rationally assessed the situation, perhaps sought counsel, and you're learning to set limits with your emotions. But what if, after all this, the path of significant distancing, maybe even completely cutting ties with a person or walking away from a major life situation, still seems like the necessary route? Before you take that final, decisive step, Stoicism urges one more crucial exercise: thoughtful consideration of the potential consequences. This isn't about second-guessing yourself into paralysis, but about making sure your decision is as wise and well-rounded as possible. Imagine you're standing at a crossroads. One path represents maintaining the current connection or situation with all its known difficulties. The other path represents detachment, a step into something new, perhaps unknown. Stoicism isn't about impulsively striding down one path because it feels like an escape. It's about pausing at that crossroads, taking a deep breath, and trying to look down each path as far as your wisdom and foresight will allow. Imagine each road as a possible future, each turn a different set of outcomes. What realistically lies down the path of distancing? Will it most likely bring the peace, clarity, and growth you're seeking? Will it strengthen your sense of self and align with your values? Or could it, perhaps, leave an unforeseen trail of regret, new complications, or missed opportunities for resolution or growth within the challenging situation? This kind of foresight isn't about trying to predict the future with a crystal ball, it's about preparing for various potential futures with grounded wisdom. Consider Jamal, a young professional in Atlanta. He's got a fantastic job offer in a new city, let's say Portland. It's a career dream. But taking it means significant distancing from his very close-knit family, his elderly grandparents he helps care for, and a community he's deeply embedded in. The crossroads for Jamal is stark: pursue his dream job and the personal growth it promises, or stay for his family and community obligations. Before making this life-altering decision, Jamal sits down and consciously tries to look down each path. If he moves, pro, career advancement, new experiences, independence; con, potential loneliness, guilt about his grandparents, missing his support system. If he stays, pro, family support, community connection, fulfilling obligations; con, potential career stagnation, resentment, feeling unfulfilled. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher who balanced the immense weight of an empire with deep personal reflection, often wrote about the importance of perspective. He mused in his meditations, "Look back over the past with its changing empires that rose and fell, and you can foresee the future too." Now, we're not dealing with empires, but the principle holds for our personal lives. We can look back at our own past decisions to detach, or major life changes we've made. What were the actual outcomes then? Did creating space or making a big change bring the clarity and peace you hoped for? Or did it lead to unforeseen difficulties, isolation, or a sense of regret? Use these personal historical reflections as a guide, not as a rigid predictor, but as a way to learn from your own lived experience to better navigate the future. Jamal might reflect on a smaller move he made for college. He was lonely at first, but eventually built a new community and grew immensely. This past experience might inform his current decision, giving him confidence he can adapt. Crucially, Stoicism, with its emphasis on cosmopolitanism, the idea that we are all citizens of the world, interconnected, teaches us to consider the impact of our decisions on others where appropriate and within reason. This isn't about letting others' desires dictate your life, especially if the relationship is harmful, but it is about acting with a sense of responsibility and consideration. In choosing to detach, are you primarily fostering your own necessary growth and well-being, and by doing so, perhaps even contributing more positively to the world or your other relationships in the long run? Or are you potentially causing unnecessary harm, misunderstanding, or fallout that could be mitigated with a different approach or better communication? This step isn't just about pure self-interest, even if self-preservation is the primary driver. It's about trying to harmonize your well-being with the broader web of relationships and responsibilities in which we all exist, to the extent that it's healthy and reasonable. For Jamal, this means considering how he can maintain connection and support for his grandparents even if he moves, perhaps regular video calls, planned visits, or helping arrange other care. It's like being mindful of your footsteps in a shared garden. You need to walk your path, but you try to do so in a way that nurtures growth rather than needlessly trampling the flowers around you. This checklist before cutting ties might involve asking yourself some direct questions. Have I done all I reasonably can to improve the situation or communicate my needs? Stoicism values effort within our control. What are my core reasons for detaching? Are they based on clear values and a need for well-being, or on temporary anger, fear, or a desire to escape discomfort? Stoics prioritize reason over fleeting passion. What are the most likely positive outcomes of this detachment for me? Focus on realistic benefits. What are the potential negative outcomes or new challenges this detachment might create for me? The Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, or negative visualization, can be helpful here, anticipating difficulties to prepare for them. What is the likely impact on the other person/people involved? Is there a way to detach that minimizes unnecessary harm or misunderstanding, if appropriate? Consideration within healthy boundaries. Am I truly ready to accept all the consequences, good and bad, that might come from this decision? Taking full responsibility for your choice. Detachment, in the Stoic sense, when it involves a significant break, is an act of considered wisdom, a carefully weighed decision. It's not a knee-jerk reaction. By thoughtfully going through such a mental checklist, you ensure that your decision, if it is to detach, is made from a place of strength, clarity, and integrity, considering not only your immediate relief but also your long-term flourishing and your place within the human community. This makes the act of letting go less about reactive pain and more about proactive peace. 6. Drowning in social media? The Stoic path to digital peace. We've talked a lot about detaching from people and challenging situations. But in our hyper-connected, 21st century lives, there's another powerful force that often requires a conscious act of detachment: social media and the constant digital deluge. If our minds are gardens we're trying to cultivate, social media can often feel like an invasive species or a relentless downpour of distracting, often unhelpful, information. Picture your mind as a calm, serene lake, its surface reflecting the clear sky. Now, imagine social media as a constant shower of raindrops, no, more like pebbles, continuously hitting that surface. Each pebble is an update, a notification, a comparison, a piece of news, an opinion, an advertisement. The lake's calm surface is constantly disturbed, its reflection shattered into 1,000 agitated ripples. This is the state many of us live in, often without even realizing how much it's affecting our peace. Stoicism, a philosophy that, of course, thrived millennia before the first smartphone, still offers timeless and incredibly relevant wisdom for managing these modern disturbances. Consider Chloe, a young entrepreneur in Seattle. She's passionate about her startup, but she's also an avid Instagram and TikTok user. She tells herself it's for inspiration and staying connected. But increasingly, she finds herself falling into comparison traps. Seeing other entrepreneurs' curated successes makes her feel inadequate. She's distracted, her attention span feels shorter, and a low hum of anxiety follows her even when she's offline, wondering what she's missing. Her serene lake is in constant turmoil. Seneca, that wise Stoic we keep returning to, often mused on the brevity of life and the importance of using our time well. He once wisely noted, "Life is long if you know how to use it." If Seneca were alive today, he would likely see much of our mindless scrolling on social media as one of modern life's most potent and unnecessary distractions, a significant misuse of our precious, finite time and attention. This step of detachment, then, giving yourself a break from social media, is about reclaiming that time and, more importantly, reclaiming your attention. It's about consciously choosing where to focus your most valuable resource, your mental energy. In the world of social media, our attention isn't just a resource, it's a commodity. The platforms are designed by very smart people to capture and hold it for as long as possible. So, when you deliberately step back, when Chloe decides to delete Instagram from her phone for a week, she's not just avoiding a digital deluge, she's giving her mind the critical space it needs to breathe, to think its own thoughts, to just be. It's akin to being in a room with a window overlooking a ridiculously busy, noisy street in downtown Manhattan. The nonstop honking, the sirens, the crowds, the flashing billboards, it's a constant sensory assault. Taking a break from social media is like drawing heavy curtains over that window. The noise, the hustle, the relentless movement, it's all still happening out there, but for this chosen period, it's not your immediate concern. You're in your own quiet room, your own mental space. Here, you can reflect without interruption, you can focus on a single task, and you can connect with your own thoughts and feelings without the distorting lens of online comparison or outrage. This break from social media isn't an act of Luddite escape or a denial of modern tools. It's a profound exercise in self-care and mental discipline. It's about discerning what truly enriches our lives and what subtly or not so subtly drains us, distracts us, or makes us feel worse about ourselves and the world. As you take this break, maybe it's an hour a day, one day a week, or a full week like Chloe is trying, pay close attention to the changes in your mental landscape. Do you feel a bit calmer after a day or two? More present in your offline interactions? More aware of your actual surroundings, the taste of your food, and the nuances of a real conversation? Are your own thoughts and creative ideas starting to surface more readily now that they're not being constantly drowned out by the digital chatter? This heightened awareness, this ability to observe your own mental state, is at the very heart of Stoic practice, understanding what we can control, our usage, our focus, and cultivating an indifference to what we cannot. The endless stream of content itself. It's about recognizing that while we cannot stop the digital rain from falling, we can choose to step under a shelter. We can choose to enjoy the quiet sound of the droplets on the roof, perhaps by mindfully consuming a small amount of valuable content later without getting utterly drenched and overwhelmed by the storm. Taking a break from social media in today's world, especially if you're used to being constantly connected, might initially feel a bit strange, like stepping off a fast-moving train onto a quiet, empty platform. It can feel a little too still, a little too quiet. You might even feel a twinge of FOMO, fear of missing out. But lean into that stillness. It's in this quiet that clarity often arises. As you embark on your social media hiatus, however long or short, remember Seneca's words and use this reclaimed time wisely. Don't just replace one mindless activity with another. Instead, like Chloe in Seattle decided to do, read a physical book. Take a long walk or a hike, paying attention to the natural world around you. Write in a journal your own thoughts, your own feelings. Engage in a hobby that uses your hands and focuses your mind, like painting, playing an instrument, gardening, or cooking a new recipe. Have a deep, uninterrupted conversation with a friend, in person or on the phone, where you're truly listening to each other, not half distracted by notifications. These activities nourish your soul. They don't just pass the time or seek external validation. This break is your time to reconnect with yourself, with the person you are, in the quiet, away from the digital crowd, the performance, and the pressure. It's your moment to remember who you are when you're not curating an image or reacting to others. It's a powerful act of Stoic detachment that can profoundly increase your peace, focus, and overall well-being in a world that's constantly vying for your attention. 7. The Stoic secret to real happiness: focus on what truly matters. We've journeyed through several crucial Stoic steps for detachment, creating space, rational assessment, seeking counsel, managing emotions, considering consequences, and even taking a break from the digital noise. Now, we arrive at the final and perhaps most foundational step in this Stoic path to inner peace and resilience. It's about deliberately turning your attention inward to the very core of your being and focusing on your fundamental needs. This isn't just a tactic, it's a way of life. Here lies the essence of Stoicism, a profound understanding that true contentment comes not from external acquisitions or approvals, but from cultivating our inner landscape and focusing on what truly matters for our growth and well-being. This is about stripping away the non-essential, the noise, the fluff, the things society tells us we should want, and honing in on what genuinely nourishes your soul, what aligns with your deepest values. And when we talk about fundamental needs in a Stoic context, we're not primarily talking about material possessions or fleeting pleasures. It's far deeper than that. We're talking about needs like emotional sustenance, moral integrity, intellectual stimulation, purpose, and personal growth. Think of your life as a garden you are responsible for cultivating. To thrive, a garden needs certain essentials: sunlight, water, good soil, and consistent care. If you fill your garden with plastic ornaments and neglect the real needs of the plants, it won't flourish. Similarly, to cultivate a flourishing inner life, what the Stoics called eudaimonia, often translated as human flourishing or living a good life, you need to identify what is truly essential for your emotional, spiritual, and intellectual growth. Then, you must consciously choose to focus your energy on nurturing these aspects. Michael, the project manager from Boston we met earlier, had been feeling adrift for a while, even after considering leaving his toxic job. He was chasing promotions and salary bumps, thinking that would make him happy, but he still felt empty. After encountering some Stoic ideas, he took this final step to heart. He sat down with a journal and, instead of listing career goals, he started to reflect on what truly brought him a sense of peace, meaning, and genuine happiness. He realized his fundamental needs included engaging in work that felt meaningful and aligned with his values, not just paid well, cultivating deep, authentic connections with a few close friends rather than a wide circle of superficial acquaintances, and having dedicated time for his creative pursuits, like playing the guitar, which he'd neglected for years. Epictetus, who, as we know, endured immense hardship yet cultivated profound wisdom, truly understood the importance of focusing on what genuinely matters. His teachings consistently highlight the power of discernment, the ability to separate the wheat from the chaff in our lives, to distinguish between what is truly good and what merely appears to be good. He famously said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This is a radical idea in our consumer-driven society. But apply this wisdom to your emotional and spiritual landscape. It's about knowing what you truly need to feel fulfilled, stable, and at peace, rather than constantly craving what others have or what advertisements tell you will make you happy. It's about recognizing that often, less is more. Less distraction, less chasing, less attachment to externals leads to more inner richness. In a world that bombards us with endless choices, endless products, endless paths to happiness, this Stoic principle calls for a courageous simplicity. It's about finding contentment not in the accumulation of more, but in the appreciation and cultivation of depth. Depth of character, depth of understanding, depth of connection with what you've identified as your core needs. Practically speaking, how do you do this? It begins with honest self-reflection. Take some quiet time, like Michael did in Boston. Ask yourself, when do I feel most alive, most authentically myself? What activities or states of mind bring me a lasting sense of peace or fulfillment rather than a temporary high? What are my core values, e.g., honesty, compassion, learning, creativity, justice? How can I live more in alignment with them? What kind of relationships genuinely nourish me and support my growth? What does my mind and spirit need to feel healthy, e.g., quiet time, learning, nature, creative expression? Identify these core needs and values. Write them down. They become your personal compass. Then the ongoing work is to make them a priority in your life. This is like packing for a long and important journey. You wouldn't just randomly throw things into your suitcase. You'd carefully select only what is essential, what will add real value to your journey, what will sustain you. This deliberate focus on your fundamental needs is incredibly powerful in helping you detach from the unnecessary, from people, situations, desires, and anxieties that don't align with these core needs. When you are clear on what truly matters to you, it becomes much easier to say no to things that distract or detract. It becomes easier to let go of attachments to outcomes that are ultimately superficial or outside of your control. For Michael, once he identified that meaningful work was a core need, the fear of leaving his high-paying but soul-crushing job lessened because he knew he was moving towards something intrinsically valuable, not just away from something unpleasant. He started restructuring his job search and his free time around these identified priorities. By centering your life around these fundamental needs, you build a foundation of inner stability and contentment that is much less vulnerable to the winds of external circumstances or the approval of others. This isn't a one-time task, something you figure out once and then you're done. It's an ongoing process, a constant returning to and reevaluation of what truly matters as you grow and evolve. Life changes, and so might some of the expressions of your core needs. But the commitment to focusing on the essential, on virtue, on inner growth remains your guiding star. This focus is your compass, steering you through life's inevitable complexities with greater clarity, purpose, and resilience. It's the difference between merely existing, being tossed around by external demands and fleeting desires, and living intentionally. And in this intentional living, rooted in an understanding of your true needs, you find the profound essence of Stoicism, a life lived with purpose, wisdom, virtue, and enduring inner peace, regardless of what the world throws your way. Live wisely, your Stoic toolkit for a stronger, calmer you. So, we've journeyed together through these powerful Stoic steps for navigating the complex terrain of our attachments and emotions. From creating that initial space for clarity to rationally assessing our relationships, seeking wise counsel, setting limits with our feelings, considering the consequences of our choices, taking a break from the digital noise, and finally, focusing on our most fundamental needs, each step offers a practical tool for a more resilient and peaceful life. In embarking upon this path of disengagement, not from life itself, but from the entanglements of people and situations that cause us undue suffering, we find a deep reservoir of profound insights and practical advice within the timeless teachings of Stoicism. This ancient philosophy, born centuries ago yet remarkably relevant today, doesn't invite us to become unfeeling robots or to isolate ourselves from the world. Far from it. Instead, Stoicism, with its enduring sagacity, enlightens us that true detachment is not akin to emotional numbness or cold indifference. Rather, it is the attainment of a serene, clear-minded, and resilient inner state. It's about cultivating what the Stoics called ataraxia, a state of tranquility, free from disturbance, not by avoiding life's challenges, but by learning to meet them with wisdom, courage, and virtue. It's about understanding what is within our control, our thoughts, our judgments, our actions, and learning to accept with equanimity what is not. Think of these principles not as rigid rules, but as a flexible toolkit for building a stronger, calmer, more centered version of yourself. When you feel overwhelmed by a person, remember the power of stepping back to gain perspective. When you're facing a difficult relationship choice, lean on rational assessment and the wisdom of trusted friends. When emotions threaten to hijack your reason, practice setting those gentle but firm limits. Before making big changes, thoughtfully weigh the consequences. When the digital world feels too loud, consciously create silence. And always return to your core needs and values as your unwavering compass. As we meander through the beautiful, messy, and often unpredictable intricacies of human connections and the inevitable trials of existence, the tenets of Stoicism shine as a lighthouse of inspiration. They don't promise a life free from difficulty, but they do offer a way to navigate those difficulties with greater fortitude, wisdom, and an unshakable sense of inner peace. They guide us towards a life enriched with virtue, the only true good, according to the Stoics, and a profound emotional strength that comes from within. We sincerely hope these steps and insights have offered you some valuable perspectives and actionable strategies. The journey of applying Stoicism is a personal one, and it's a practice, not a destination. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Which of these steps resonated with you the most? Is there one in particular that you're inclined to try in your own life? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your insights could be incredibly helpful to others in our Stoic Viva community. If you found value in this video and the wisdom shared, we warmly encourage you to express your appreciation by giving it a like. It truly helps our channel reach more people who might benefit from these teachings. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to Stoic Vivu and ringing that notification bell. That way, you'll be among the first to savor our freshly baked Stoic wisdom videos designed to help you live a more virtuous, fulfilling, and tranquil life in the modern world. Please also feel free to share this video with those you hold dear, anyone you think might find strength and guidance in these ancient yet ever-relevant principles. Thank you for joining us on this journey today. Live wisely, live well, and may your path be filled with virtue and inner peace.